Looks like we're live. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Harrison Burt. I'm the Director of Fundraising here at StartEngine. I'm here with Kevin O'Leary, as you're all probably familiar with, and then Bradley Burnam, the CEO and founder of Turn Therapeutics. Turn Therapeutics is currently raising a round on StartEngine. And to start off, Brad, would love for you to give a brief introduction on yourself, the company, and where you guys currently are just in terms of your business.
Sure. My name is Brad Burnam. I'm a Libra. I like long. I'm sorry, a different webinar. Couldn't help it. I'm Brad Burnam, founder of Turn Therapeutics. It's been a pretty wild journey. As far as where the company is right now, I would call us mid to late stage in both pharma and medical device. We're sort of a rare hybrid that has both devices and pharma. Multiple FDA clearances done, working on our second license deal, and we're doing our Reg A right now. We can get into much more detail as we go on.
Great. And maybe to give a little more context, Brad, you founded Turn and specifically the technology you've created out of a pretty personal health struggle. Could you speak to that story a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, for the sake of time, I can sort of summarize and say, I picked up a deadly infection or a 70% fatal infection while I was working as a medical device sales rep in the hospital. Had about 21 surgeries to reconstruct my face into something that isn't completely abhorrent to look at. And no matter how many courses of antibiotics they put me on, the infections just kept recurring. And I think I sort of did something that Kevin would identify with at this point, because I know you built SoftKey, beginning in a basement. I actually went into my garage and started ordering chemicals off that fascinating site I found called Alibaba, because it turns out you can basically buy anything on Alibaba. Had barrels of petrolatum and found some pretty amazing ingredients that they were using in Europe. I identified one in particular that's become our active ingredient. And I literally built a lab/manufacturing facility that my neighbors probably thought was another kind of thing being cooked, and formulated my first, what we'll call recipe, that we ended up getting FDA cleared, and it became Turn. But it was an unfortunate beginning, and I think it's been romanticized a lot. The guy who almost died and then turned it into a company, but it's also become a very personal topic to me, antibiotic resistance. So I speak on it a great deal and advocate for policy.
Kevin, what stands out to you when a founder's story is this personal and mission driven, specifically in the healthcare space?
Well, it's not uncommon when you go back and find successful outcomes for entrepreneurs that they're motivated by a passion that is a life experience. That's not unique here. And it's a very good motivator to try and get a good outcome. But when it comes to medicines or medical devices, it's even more powerful, because if you've experienced the downside of the story we just heard, you know that others it's going to happen to them too. And so great products, great services solve big problems. And that's what we have here. It's if you are in a situation like Bradley was, there are no economics that matter.
Nope.
It doesn't matter. And those are extraordinary markets and extraordinary situations. And that this is unique to this sector. Solutions like this come along once in a while, and they create tremendous value because they solve huge problems. And if that happened to me, there'd be no price that would matter. That's the whole point.
I can tell you that when I started this company, I'd never heard of a venture capital fund before. I mean, I went from being a grad student to a W-2 employee, and that's where I got sick. So there was no initial intention to go out and kill it in the financial world, to make a giant bedrock of a company and shoot dividends out to people. I wasn't thinking of that. It was just survival at that point. And also a bit of frustration, because when you're a patient living through something like that, you get very aware of the tools they're using on you, obviously. And that's when I learned random things like Neosporin was never FDA approved. A lot of people don't even know that. It was patented in 1951, and we still treat it like a standard of care. It barely works anymore. And when you learn these things and you feel a bit sort of, I'll call it, left behind by the medical system that you trust, it's motivating, not just for me and for the founders in particular working on such things, but also to do some good. so then you can actually help some other people who may not be aware and might confront the same thing.
So Brad, what did that evolution look like from what was effectively a home remedy? And now you mentioned you have FDA clearances, you're beginning phase 2 efficacy trials for your eczema drug candidate. Could you talk us through that evolution?
Absolutely. So, a lot of my initial research was really just internet. I mean, I learned, what chemicals are being used in other countries, like I mentioned. And also along the way, the testing protocols required to get things to market, and the barriers to entry. And I describe it sometimes a bit like filing your taxes. It's like we all use accountants because we don't understand the tax code. But I realize that the people that do understand it can still file their own taxes. And it's kind of the same thing with the Food and Drug Administration. If you can learn the process to get something through the clearances and the approvals, then you can actually do the work yourself. And then you remove that, high-priced consultant barrier to entry. So when I found out and when I was seeking a way to actually get this to other patients, once we realized it worked, I started looking. The FDA actually will teach you how to do these things. They have a help desk, and I have this vision in my head of a dusty old rotary phone in the back of the FDA somewhere that I kept calling, and they were saying, no, this is what you need to file. This is the test you need to do. And I found laboratories like Microchem in Texas, I think some of them are on right now, that would run the test for me. So Kevin, I figured out the process for getting something FDA cleared, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, the test we needed to do, and built the binder literally at a Kinko's, by the way, in Woodland Hills, California, and shipped it off myself. And the entire first FDA clearance was $24,000, including the review fee, which is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars less than the average company spends on an FDA clearance. And it evolved because I got out there and started giving samples to people saying, what do you have to lose? Try it. And next thing you know, we just had people calling and asking for more. And then McKesson calls and says, can we carry it? Then all of a sudden you've got a company, and it just grew from there. So
Kevin, in this space, it's highly regulated. As an investor, how do you think about the FDA pathway, clearance, and how sort of meeting those regulatory milestones are potentially risk mitigants for investors?
Adoption and then going through the trial process. This has been done countless times before. And so the way it works is when it's a new molecule or a new therapeutic or whatever, and it's just starting its journey into the FDA, that's the highest risk and, of course, the highest returns if you're successful getting through the gauntlet. It also, I've never heard of a case for 24,000. That's remarkable. Mostly it's 24 million.
Yeah.
And you have to raise a lot of money. But also adoption and trial and proof of concept bolsters valuation and opens up markets, because there's lots of new ideas that I like about this story is, and I've learned this myself, many of the treatments that I take for longevity are not offered in the United States. I fly to Dubai to get them. Even though they're American doctors with American technology, all the machines are US, and the actual treatments are actually manufactured in the US, but we're not allowed to use them here. So using other geographies to find compounds, chemicals, whatever, is definitely a good idea, because we do not have a monopoly on good ideas here.
No, we don't.
Yeah, and so this story is pretty good. I mean, what's unique about this is this $24,000, the FDA clearance. I don't know if there's ever been a story like that.
No, and to clarify, for the sake of clarifying, so I mentioned in the beginning that we have both devices and drugs, and I think you'll actually like this because you like mailbox money business models. So we built a medical device division. So the first medical device clearance was $24,000, and then we got 2 additional device clearances. We're working on another one right now. We licensed one of them off to a public company to create supplemental funding and passive revenue for the company. And then the formulas and the technology are also being put through the new drug approval process. So the 2 separate buildings at the FDA. So the new drug approvals with the new chemical entity that you're talking about, which is called polyhexanide, we're still getting 2 FDA approvals done as drugs for a total of about $46.5 million, which in pharma world is still cheap. Even though we use the exact same CROs, the exact same manufacturers, we're just lean. And I think also it's in fashion now to be a little bit more like we are, which is that we don't waste money. We still fly economy. We value the fact that our shareholders are investing in us. And it used to be that I think the flashiest companies with the biggest buildings that were building the biggest labs and hiring 50, 60 people just to make themselves look busy were the ones that got the big dollars. And I think we've sort of seen that in the political world as well, that, efficiency and the ability to pivot and be nimble is becoming in fashion.
How should investors think about that kind of approach, Kevin? Somewhat of a scrappier, unique approach, specifically within biopharma, where historically it's really high funding amounts to even get a drug approved.
Well, as Bradley just detailed, that model's changing. Investors are tired of that. Raise millions, spend it all. Raise more millions, spend it all. Raise more millions, spend it all, because it's dilutionary. It dilutes the original founders. So being scrappy and getting to the outcomes with less burn is very much on trend now, and it's rewarded. I mean, in valuations in a big way. And then, of course, once you have one success and you see other use cases for the same idea, you want to expand and do more development because you're adding value to the original idea in a big way, and you've proven you can get one to market. That's a very big deal.
Yeah, and it's
key.
That's sort of been the evolution, because the doctors, and you've probably heard these use cases. I mean, things like Viagra, that was obviously not invented for what it's mainly used for. It was a heart drug. Botox. You guys know what the first indication for Botox was? Actually, just random pop quiz. It was actually for crossed eyes. These are discoveries that people make, and that sort of happened with our technology. People discovered it was good at eczema. People discovered it was good at toenail fungus. And we listened to the doctors who did the work for us, because we're foolish not to listen to the actual users that are putting it on their patients because they feel comfortable to do it. So you're right. We were able to expand the technology, but because we already had product in circulation, through McKesson, hundreds of thousands of uses, we also had a lot of predictability on the safety side. It's very comforting to go into trials knowing that. But we sort of followed our customers' advice. Look, it works at this. It seems like it's more than a guess at that point. It's almost like you have a cheat sheet, and then we can expand value.
Rad, we have a question from the crowd that I think is pertinent here about the science behind Turn. Specifically, what's unique about your formula's mechanism and compared to maybe traditional approaches with steroids and injectables?
Oh, absolutely. So I do want to do this stepwise. So what's unique about there is a platform company. I know that's kind of a cliche term, but we can make other formulas besides the current lead formula that everybody's very familiar with, which is the hexagen. But we can suspend liquid inside of oil, which was supposed to be impossible, and we ruined a lot of songs probably in the process. But now we have 17 plus patents on mixing liquid inside of oil, so we can use a lot less of that new chemical entity or other chemical entities in our formulas, but still produce the same effect. So that's the platform tech. So once we mix in, you can use your imagination as far as the other things we could try, like we're working with vaccines now. Once we mixed in the active ingredient that we're using on eczema and toenail fungus, the mechanism of action for those is it's an antimicrobial that also is an immune signaler. So in particular to eczema is actually a relatively simple disease that I think people probably haven't spent enough time looking at the cause, and I'm glad people started to in the past few years. People with eczema, they tend to have a thin skin barrier, and they get excess bacteria under the skin, and the body tries to attack it, and it sends off this long chain of immune signals. So we were able to prove that we actually shut off that first inappropriate immune signal in eczema, and then also other ones along the way that cause itch and scratch and discomfort. So they're called interleukins or cytokines. So it's a cytokine inhibitor for eczema. And it reduces the excess staph. For toenail fungus, it's a lot more simple. I wish I could say it was super elegant, but I like the fact, because sometimes elegance and simplicity go together. It's a lipid-based carrier, and the only way to penetrate something like a toenail is as a lipid carrier. If you think about, there's other ones that are on the market that are water-based, and if anybody's here ever taken a bath, I mean, Kevin, I'm sure when you took a bath, the water doesn't soak into your skin and disappear. So when people try to put a water-based product on their skin, it doesn't get through. So we can penetrate the toenail, and then the fact that it kills the bugs, it kills the fungus. So the trick is that we get through.
Is that toenail product on the market now?
No, it's going into phase 3s soon. So although it's there was a lead podiatrist, the American Podiatric Medical Association president did a study on it, about 100-patient study in his office, and he got 70 to 85% effectiveness. So he told me it was good at toenail fungus. I didn't have that idea initially because I wasn't thinking about toenail fungus. So after phase 3s, it will be.
Will this be an over-the-counter product?
No, we're going to go into prescription first because, interestingly, toenail fungus, there's a lot of Wild West out there in OTC because you have to have a prescription or a new drug approval to treat toenail fungus, not athlete's foot. You can do that OTC. But we're going to do prescription first because we don't have the hundreds of millions of dollars to compete in the consumer space. Ideally, someday I'd love to make it over the counter, but first it's
the thing about that product is it goes by word of mouth. If you look at the market segments that blow up on this, it's all online customer acquisition cost based. Yeah. Very few of these companies spend any money in advertising. If it works, everybody will talk about it. You will sell a shitload of it. So that's a very, very interesting product for when it gets to market. If it's a subscription based, it's got to go through the doctor. But if you can get clearance just for over the counter, that's a huge, huge market.
Well, we can. It's the same data. It's a different label. The FDA will allow us to pursue it either way. You basically have to make the label, the lay person is the term they use versus the doctor supervised. And it will be safe enough to make an over-the-counter approval, but we'd probably need a strategic to partner with us or maybe somebody like Kevin O'Leary with a large consumer base to actually acquire those customers. We're just not built for a consumer play at the moment.
Well, we should talk about that. I'd get behind a product like that because I suffered from that, and it's extremely hard to cure. Extremely hard, because if you're on any kind of medicine for cholesterol, you can't use
Namisil.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got to use a topical application, and they don't work, as you said.
They don't work. And there's a lot of misbranded ones out there that are like cosmetics, and they refer to themselves as nail lighteners and junk like that. So I can send you some of the data. I mean, I got a call one day that this brilliant doctor named Dan Davis, who may be on here, was up on stage doing a presentation about our product as the new off-label standard of care for toenail fungus. And it was a really wonderful surprise. And now we're pursuing it.
No, it's a huge affliction in America. It's a massive market. That's very intriguing. I didn't know that about your deal, but I think now that's the kind of derivative product that gets even more revenue. But you got to think about a go-to-market strategy on that. Word of mouth on that is huge, just huge.
Secretly, or not so secretly, because we're on live stream now, I would love to have over-the-counter products. It's easier for a smaller company, ironically, to start out as a prescription product because the marketing is much more specific. Obviously, your customer is your doctor who then gives it to the patients. There's less of them, But if you have the marketing power and the social media force and the commercial abilities, yes.
Bradley, let's talk after this. I mean, I didn't know this about you, but I only back products that I personally use. Yeah. And that's why you got to be authentic when you go into social media, but I have millions of followers, and if I can help you, I definitely will. Let's talk.
I'd be honored. Yeah. I mean, going straight to the commercial would be, it would be quite the dream to be on the shelves and walk down.
This is what I love about StartEngine. I mean, this is why I'm involved. See, I use StartEngine. Here's my use case.
Yeah.
Why I'm a shareholder in it. This is very, very interesting. This is I love big markets with big problems and eloquent solutions. That is how you create tremendous shareholder value right there.
And what's really nice is when the experts who would be your biggest customers, your biggest influencers per se, especially like the president of the Podiatric Medical Association, is the one who actually tells you it's good at something. It's not just me trying to convince you.
We're going to talk. I want to learn more about it. I want to try it too. So, I mean, I got to try it. I got to get in the study or whatever the hell it is. Let's figure it out.
We can definitely figure that out. I do know a guy. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, a follow-up question for you there for people listening, considering this investment opportunity. How do you assess startups within biopharma, within pharma that are diversifying across several verticals and go-to-markets?
It's very simple. What problem are they solving? How big is the market? What's the path to success? I mean, I'm an investor in medical devices and in molecules. Yeah. If it's a big idea and they're solving a big pain point, that's very interesting as an investment. That's really when you find it, and that's why not to go back under the toe fungus. But that's a huge pain for millions of people.
Market. Yeah.
So the whole idea is when you find those, and then you've got the other thing is, Bradley, can he execute? Always with these companies, you can have a big vision. If you can't execute, you're worthless. Mm-hmm. And so there's some evidence he can do that, which matters a lot. And I haven't met his team, but all that matters. But it's sort of the best places to catch the waves in these kind of companies is after they've proven one outcome. Mm-hmm. And then they're starting to multiply on that outcome. Then you have the path of least resistance versus, this is my first molecule, my first drug, whatever it is, my first device. And they haven't gone through the hell it takes to get that to market. That's a different story.
Yeah. Also, it's funny, my risk tolerance has gotten lower as I've gotten further along in business. In the beginning, when you have nothing to lose, you can lose everything, but as you get further in life and you have more shareholders, that I don't like just pursuing something without an extreme amount of information that it's going to be likely successful. And that's the predictability data we have.
At the farm, I totally get that. Yeah. You've already created a lot of value and you're back in the market. Yeah. This is a very interesting story. That's what I love about this. I mean, it's great to give a platform to these great innovations and entrepreneurs, but executional skills are very hard to find.
Yeah. Well, the willingness to not sleep and grind your teeth to a pulp is the beginning of entrepreneurship. And I've definitely broken a few teeth over the years. Yeah, I'm sure you did too in the beginning.
No, I have, but I'm also much savvier for understanding the opportunities versus the risks and the time. But a big pain point, big market, a path to delivering the product, all these things matter. And then, of course, once you've proven a domestic market, you can go international, either through distribution partners or bring it to Europe or bring it to Asia. Whatever afflicts a human being in America is afflicting human beings all over the world. Yeah. And so you really want to, take the momentum and then say, okay, let's go to a different distribution strategy in other markets.
What's ironic is you mentioned Dubai. I looked up statistics that the toenail fungus is way higher over there. It's because I think it's the humidity.
The thing about Dubai is that because men wear sandals, toenail etiquette is the whole deal. Yeah. And so I think this product would do very well over there because when I go over there, everybody and also it's hot as hell. I mean, you don't want to be wearing shoes.
Yeah, no. And also apparently the diabetes is much higher over there. I mean, I've never been there. I've heard they've got a cool amusement park that Ferrari built. I want to go take the roller coasters. But,
no. If this product, I mean, I have a business over there, O'Leary Global's out of Abu Dhabi, and that's the fastest growing segment. That part of the world is on fire. I mean, there's just so much opportunity there. In all kinds of different sectors, including longevity. They're leading the world in longevity clinics. And so they have the most advanced, but a product like this would do very, very well for obvious reasons. It fits the market.
Yeah, and Harrison, as far as statistics on toenail, even though we're spending a lot of time on toenail fungus, but as Kevin said, it's been proven in one thing and it moves along. Some of the biggest drugs in history, like Humira, I think they had 15 indications or 10 indications, Botox, 10 indications. It's everything from like over sweating / hyperhidrosis to migraine headaches to cosmetics. You just keep proving your tech and moving along to the next thing using real world evidence and real world data. And it de-risks the next move. And also when it comes to the Food and Drug Administration, they're considered supplemental approvals. You actually don't have to file and pay another fee. We have to file, you don't have to pay another multi-million-dollar fee just to file. But it's a fun model and also feels less risky, which is good for my neurosis, my tendency to not like to jump into things head first. And the traditional pharma model has always been raise hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, throw it into one asset, cross your fingers, hire 50 people that try to look really busy, that run around the halls while you're in clinical trials. And then if it fails, everybody loses their money. But if you win, you make 20, 40x. I like that we broke it up where there's a medical device segment that can produce revenue that can support the company, where we can try new things, where we can play, where we can pursue new indications. And it's sort of like a regenerative braking system on a hybrid car where it kind of feeds the other division. I don't think I can find another company that's done that at our level that's built both device and drug segments. It's usually one or the other.
Where's HQ, Bradley? Where are you located?
So the main headquarters is in Westlake, California, right by Amgen. We didn't put it there because of Amgen, but that just happens to be where it was. There's a bunch of entrepreneurs and a bunch of people that are involved with us that are spread around the country. We've got staff in Texas, facilities, other parts of the country. But, I outsource as much as possible.
How far from LA is that?
Westlake, it's actually basically in LA. If you know where the San Fernando Valley is, it's right on the edge of it.
Okay, when I'm coming out to shoot Shark Tank in a couple of weeks, I'll be there all of June. So let's get together.
I would love that.
And let's do dinner after one of the shoot days.
Can I come and watch? That'd be fun.
That's tough. They don't.
I'm just kidding. I know it's a private pitch. It was just, I had to throw it out there. You got to try. Yeah.
No, you got to try. They stopped getting guests on this set a long time ago. Yeah. It's a remarkable outcome. People think it's easy, but it's really hard to do that when you get on that set and the actual cameras are rolling. A lot of the people pass out. I'm not kidding.
Oh, look, I can, and I've heard the pitches are hours. Then they break them down.
Yeah, they last a long time, but they get cut down to 8 minutes. But a good deal. And this could have been a good Shark Tank deal.
Yeah, in the beginning, I thought I wish I could have gone in there and said I have a new Neosporin. And I would have actually had the data to answer Mark's questions. By the way, you got me through COVID. I should owe you a thank you for that.
Yeah, no. Cuban would have ripped you to pieces anyways. He likes to do that on deals like this. But I'm the guy that does the investing.
I would say that as far as Shark Tank goes, I think of it as, and I'm just saying it because it's important to me. It reminds me of what J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter did for reading. It made business cool the way Harry Potter made reading cool.
Yeah, no, it's turned into, it's on in 54 countries. It's an international passport for me. I'm the ambassador of the American dream wherever I go. It's fantastic. And I get called in front of Congress and the Senate to testify all the time. Yeah. It's bipartisan. Job creation and the stuff you're doing, Bradley, is bipartisan. It's not political. Republicans have toe fungus. Democrats have toe
everybody. You're right. It afflicts everyone, no matter who you vote for. Yeah.
I know we focused a lot on the toe fungus thing, but the other markets you're in are also huge. So, yeah. I think it's been a very fruitful call, frankly. I think this is a very interesting deal. There's no question about it. I'm going to follow up with you. And
I look forward to it. Yeah. And I frankly, I enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to this for a while, getting on this Zoom with you. So
yeah. So listen, Bradley, get the guys at StartEngine to connect us, okay?
Okay, and I'll get you some data, and we'll figure out a way to get you an ability to try it. I'll send you some really, really fun. I will be
such an advocate if this stuff works. You won't believe it, but not just domestically, internationally. So
you know what? Working with you would be quite the dream outcome. So Harrison, you know how to get to him.
Yeah. Let's go.
Well, Kevin, Brad, thank you both. Really interesting discussion. Super helpful for everyone watching, and thank you both for the time.
Can I just end with because we're going into Memorial Day. It just feels apropos to say thank you to the troops and the service members and the people who've lost people in the field. You don't often get an audience like this where you get to say that to more than just the people in the service, but I have a huge respect for our service members. We're actually working on a biowarfare project or a biowarfare defense project that means a lot to me because of that. So thank you to our service members.
100%, Bradley. That's a very cool call out. Very good.
So, all right, everyone. Harrison, StartEngine, you guys are the best. Thank you as people and as colleagues. And Kevin, it's been an honor.
Thanks everyone for the time. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Brad.